The thief with hollow eyes, the sun on planet Virex 9 was cruel. It didn't just shine, it burned. The wind carried more dust than air, and survival was a daily war. Logan had been stationed here for 2 weeks. A human scout, part of a small recovery team sent to search for salvageable tech, fuel, or life. But so far, all he had found was sand, dead outposts, and silence. Until today. Logan had just finished setting up camp. He placed his ration kit on a flat rock, dehydrated protein, thermal water, and a vitamin bar. He turned away for a second to check his scanner readings. When he turned back, the food was gone. At first, he thought it had blown away, but the wind wasn't that strong. Then he noticed something, a trail, tiny footprints, barely visible in the sand, leading away from the camp. The prints were small, too small for any adult human or even soldier-class alien. Logan's hand moved to the side of his utility belt. He gripped his plasma sidearm but didn't draw it. Curiosity beat caution this time. He followed the footprints. They darted between dunes, dipped into dried-out riverbeds, and finally led toward a crack in the rocky canyon wall, a small gap barely wide enough for a child. Logan crouched and peered inside. There. 2 glowing eyes stared back at him, wide, frightened, hollow. The creature was thin, skin stretched over bones like plastic wrap. Dirt covered its face. Its limbs were trembling, and in its bony fingers, the food, half-eaten, stuffed into its mouth like it hadn't eaten in days, maybe weeks. It was a child, not human, not any known species on Logan's database, but a child nonetheless. Logan stepped, back slowly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. "You can keep it." The child flinched, then ran. "Wait." Logan ducked and followed through the crevice. The passage widened slightly. The air was cooler here. Shadows danced on the rocks. The child was fast, even in its weak condition. Logan nearly lost it twice. But then he saw where the child had gone, a shallow cave, hidden beneath a large overhang. Inside was a small nest made of scrap cloth, old wires, and broken fabric. And there, lying motionless, was an adult alien, woman. Her skin was pale gray, cracked like dried earth. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was shallow, one arm wrapped protectively around a small torn blanket. The other hand gripped a stone knife. The child dropped beside her, curled up, and started shaking her shoulder. She didn't wake up. Logan stood frozen. This wasn't a thief. This was a child trying to save his dying mother. He stepped closer, slowly, making no sudden movements. His AI chip whispered in his ear, "Unknown alien life form, weak, low threat, no hostile signals detected." Logan knelt beside the woman and opened a med pack. He poured a hydration serum into a capsule and held it near her mouth. "Hey, try to drink this," he whispered. The woman's eyes opened, barely, glowing, golden slits. She stared at him. Her lips moved, forming a word he didn't understand. But her eyes, they weren't afraid. They were begging. Logan gently tipped the capsule. The liquid touched her lips. She swallowed. The child watched every move, his tiny body trembling. He didn't speak either. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he had forgotten how. Logan pulled out a heat blanket and placed it over them both. He took off his comm device and muted the signal. He didn't want anyone to interrupt. These weren't enemies. These were survivors. He sat beside them, watching the fading light outside the cave. Night would fall soon. Temperatures would drop. But for now, the heat lingered. The child slowly inched closer to Logan, not trusting, but not running either. Logan reached into his bag and offered a second ration bar. The child stared at it, then at him, and took it. They ate in silence. That night, Logan didn't sleep. He just sat there guarding the cave entrance, his plasma weapon across his knees. Every few minutes he looked back at the mother and child. The woman had fallen unconscious, again. But her breathing had improved, and the child, he had finally stopped shaking. He was curled beside her. Safe, for now. Logan didn't know who they were. He didn't know what planet they came from or why they had been left behind. But he knew one thing: they were alive, and he was the only one who knew. The mother in the dust, the morning light on Virex 9 didn't bring comfort. It brought truth. When Logan opened his eyes, the alien child was already awake, sitting by the woman's side. The boy wasn't crying. He just watched her, silent, alert, as if every breath she took could be her last. Logan checked the vitals again. Her breathing was still shallow. Her skin looked dry and cracked, like she'd been out in the sun for too long. Too many days without proper water, without proper food. Her veins showed hints of blue, not from blood, but from something else. Something not human. But it was the dust that caught Logan's eye. A strange red powder was all over her body, mixed into her clothes, her hair, and the rock she lay on. It wasn't sand. It shimmered slightly, almost like ash. Logan rubbed some between his fingers. His AI whispered in his ear. Unknown compound. Trace elements of bioresidue. Possibly sacred. Caution advised. Logan looked up. The child had seen him touch it, and the moment Logan wiped it off on his jacket, the child flinched, then crawled forward, placing his small hands over the powder as if to protect it. Logan understood. It wasn't just dust. It was memory. Maybe even burial ash. The woman moved. Barely. Her eyes opened halfway. This time she spoke. The words were low, broken, but clear. Don't take the dust. It's all that's left. Her voice was dry and weak, but it shook Logan more than any weapon. He crouched beside her, gently placing the hydration capsule at her lips again. I'm not taking anything. I'm trying to help, he said. She drank. Slower this time. Her eyes studied him. Then she reached under her blanket with trembling fingers and pulled out something. A small crystal. Black. Burnt on one side. She placed it in Logan's hand. Record of our fall. Then her arm dropped. Exhausted, Logan stared at the object. It was warm, pulsing slightly in his palm. A data stone. Old alien tech, used before interstellar transmissions were common. He tapped it against his interface pad. It projected a flickering image above his hand. Chaos. Buildings burning. Alien ships fleeing. Screams in an unknown language. A female voice narrating, broken and terrified. We were betrayed by our own generals. They sold our skies to warlords. We refused to kneel, so they buried us instead. The scene showed the woman, young, fierce, dressed in royal armor, fighting, protecting civilians, shielding the child. Then, an explosion. And static. Logan shut the device off. He sat in silence for a long while. This wasn't just a survivor. This was someone important. Someone hunted. The boy reached for Logan's hand and gently pulled it. He pointed out of the cave. Outside? You want me to follow you? The boy nodded. Logan stood, scanning the area with caution. He followed the child through the side trail, about 50 meters away from the cave. The sun was higher now, making the path harder to walk. Then he saw it, a half-buried metal beacon cracked open, long dead. On it was the symbol, 3 stars in a triangle. Logan froze. That emblem didn't belong to the woman's race. It belonged to those who hunted them. It meant one thing. They knew she was here. Someone had tracked them. Someone powerful, and someone might be coming back. Back in the cave, the woman spoke again. Her voice was clearer now. Human, your people fear us. They fear what I carry, but it is only truth, not war. Logan kneeled beside her. You don't have to explain anything. I'm not like them." She stared at him with tired, ancient eyes. "I know, that's why the child came to you." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "He didn't steal from you, Logan. He chose you." Logan felt the weight of her words. This wasn't random. This wasn't survival. It was a test. And now, he was part of it. As night began to fall again, Logan sat outside the cave watching the horizon. His comm unit buzzed. Command was calling, probably wondering why he hadn't checked in for 2 days. He looked at the cave behind him, the child asleep, beside his mother, the data stone glowing faintly. He didn't answer the call. Some truths are more important than orders. The echoes of extinction. The fire cracked quietly inside the cave. Logan sat motionless, staring into the flickering flames. But his mind wasn't in the cave anymore. It was in the memory that Crystal had shown him. A world burning. A queen betrayed. A child crying over bodies that didn't move anymore. He looked over at the sleeping pair. The mother's breathing had steadied, though her skin still looked paper thin. The child was curled up beside her, clinging to the heat like it was life itself, and in a way, it was. Logan's AI whispered again in his ear. Vital signs stabilized. Nutrient levels critical. Unknown pathogen detected. Alien immune system may collapse without immediate aid. He closed his eyes. This wasn't just about food or water anymore. They were dying from grief, from poison, from time itself. Suddenly, a low mechanical sound echoed outside the cave. Logan's eyes snapped open. He grabbed his weapon, switched off the fire, and crawled toward the entrance. There, in the distance, 2 flickering red lights. Hovering. Searching. Drones. Logan swore, under his breath. He knew that sound. Recon class. Used by bounty hunters, slave merchants, and worse. He looked back into the cave. The boy hadn't noticed yet. The mother was too weak to react. They had no time. Logan pulled a reflective tarp over the cave entrance. He scattered dust on top to hide it, then crept up the ridge above the cave with his binoculars. The drones floated closer. They were scanning for life signatures, not random searchers. They were here for her. One of the drones let out a high-pitched beep. Logan ducked. His heart pounded. Then, silence. They passed over, but Logan knew they'd be back, and next time, they'd bring soldiers. Later that night, the woman stirred, again. Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. "I dreamed of fire again." Logan looked up. "It wasn't a dream." She opened her eyes slowly. "You saw it." He nodded. "The crystal showed me." Her gaze drifted toward the ceiling. "My people, we weren't perfect, but we believed in mercy. That was our crime. We didn't want to conquer, we wanted to heal. The others called that weakness." Logan sat down beside her. "And they wiped you out for it." "No, they erased us, one by one, city by city, even memories." She turned to the child, asleep beside her. "He was born in hiding, never saw our capital, never touched the sea. He only knows dust." Logan swallowed hard. "That's not right." The woman's hand trembled as she reached for his. "Then make it right." The next morning, Logan walked deep into the canyon alone, searching for any signal or safe zone. He found bones, alien, humanoid, even old scout gear. This canyon was a graveyard, but he also found something else, an old transmitter, damaged, but usable. He dragged it back toward the cave. The woman saw it and her eyes widened. That model was used by the last resistance cell. Logan connected the data stone to it. The stone blinked, then the screen came alive with coordinates, files, names, and a symbol, a new one, a phoenix rising from shattered stars. "What is this?" Logan asked. She smiled faintly. "A seed. The last spark of my people's hope. Buried here, waiting for someone with hands still clean to carry it. You want me to bring this to someone?" I want you to become someone." Logan froze. "I'm just a scout." "No," she whispered. "You're a witness. That makes you dangerous and powerful." That night, Logan didn't sleep. Again. He stood outside, looking at the stars. He realized something terrifying. If he walked away now, no one would ever know. No one would remember this woman, or this child, or the people they came from. The galaxy would move on, unchanged. And that thought haunted him more than war ever did. Back in the cave, the child woke up. He didn't speak, but he walked to Logan, holding something out. A small, carved stone, shaped like a star cracked in half. He placed one half in Logan's hand and kept the other, a bond. Silent, undeniable. Logan closed his fingers around it. "I'm not going anywhere," he said softly. "I promise." The choice. That changed everything. The cave wasn't silent anymore. It breathed, not in sound, but in energy, in purpose, in the weight of decisions hanging thick in the air. Logan stood at the mouth of the cave, eyes locked on the transmitter he had just repaired. The data was ready. The files from the crystal had fully uploaded. Names of the fallen. Locations of hidden resistance pockets. Evidence of betrayal that could shatter entire councils. It was truth, but truth always has a price. His comm device buzzed again. "Logan 9. This is command. You've missed 3 check-ins. We've detected unauthorized tech signals near your coordinates. Respond immediately." He didn't respond. A second voice came in, colder, not his usual handler. "Logan 9, we are aware you've activated forbidden tech in a red zone sector. Cease all transmission and return to base. This is your final warning." Logan turned off the device. He stared down at the 2 figures sleeping inside the cave. The child now, holding Logan's hand in his sleep, and the mother. Her skin still pale, but her pulse stronger. They didn't know it, but Logan had just crossed a line, and there was no way back. As the sun rose, Logan stepped outside with his weapon and began sweeping the perimeter. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't trained for this kind of decision. But something in him had shifted. He had spent years following orders. Missions that meant nothing. Cleanup jobs, resource collections, empty cities, dead signals. But this was real. This mattered. Suddenly, movement. His eyes snapped to the ridge. A shadow. Then, 3 figures in cloaked armor stepped into view. Not human, not local either. Their eyes glowed blue, their armor marked with the same 3-star triangle he had seen on the destroyed beacon earlier. Hunters. They had arrived. Logan dove behind cover and tapped into his visor. Heat signatures. Confirmed. 3 active. 1 with a pulse cannon. Coordinated formation. Warning. Highly trained trackers. You are outnumbered. Recommend stealth or escape. Logan smirked under his breath. Too late for that. He tossed a sonic grenade downhill. It exploded in silence, then released a blinding flash. While the hunters staggered, Logan rolled from cover and fired. 1 went down, shocked, not dead. The Kir. Other 2 scattered. 1 fired a plasma burst that barely missed Logan's leg. The sand hissed where it landed, but Logan didn't retreat. He fought. Every bullet, every dodge, every breath. Because inside that cave were 2 souls who had no one else. Back inside, the woman stirred. She sensed the chaos outside. She sat up slowly, clutching the wall for support. The child rushed to her side, helping her sit. "Logan," she whispered. He stayed. Tears filled her eyes. No one ever stayed before. Outside, Logan slammed his last energy cell into his weapon and fired a shot that hit one of the hunters in the chest. The third turned and fled, signaling retreat. Logan didn't chase. He dropped to one knee, panting. His side was burned, blood trickling down his sleeve. But he didn't care. He had won. Not the battle, the choice. Hours later, Logan bandaged his side with a strip of his own uniform. He reactivated the comms, only long enough to send one message. To command. I'm done following cowards. He attached the data files, the crystal, the holograms, the images of the mother, the child, the hunters who attacked, everything, and hit send. The signal pulsed into the sky, bouncing through abandoned satellites, drifting toward the nearest relay station. He didn't know who would see it, or what would happen next, but the truth was out. And someone, somewhere, was going to feel it. The woman looked at him, eyes filled with a strange mix of sorrow and hope. You have painted a target on yourself, she said. Logan shrugged. It was already there. She reached forward and placed a small silver emblem in his palm. It was the symbol of her house, a forgotten crest now burned into history. Then carry this, she said. Let them remember who helped us rise. Logan nodded. He didn't want medals. He didn't want stories told about him. But if the child survived, if the mother lived to speak her truth, that would be enough. The chase across the dunes. The desert didn't forgive. By sunrise, Logan knew they had to leave the cave. The hunters would return, this time with backup. Satellites could already be tracking energy surges from the transmitter. The data crystal had been sent, but that also meant they were exposed. The mother couldn't walk yet. Her strength had returned slightly, but her body was still too weak. The child clung to her side, eyes wide with silent fear. Logan tore apart the old transmitter and used its frame to build a crude sled. He wrapped the queen in a heat blanket, strapped her gently to the sled, and secured supplies. Then looked to the boy. You'll guide me, Logan said. Anywhere safe. You understand? The boy hesitated, then nodded once. He pointed east, toward the broken horizon where the sand shimmered like fire. Logan adjusted his rifle strap, gripped the sled's cord and began to pull. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, a second smaller sun rising behind it. Twin heat, twin pain. Logan's boots dragged through soft dunes, his breathing ragged. Every step felt heavier. His muscles burned, but he didn't stop. The boy walked beside him, barefoot, never complaining. And behind them, invisible eyes watched. Logan didn't see the glint at first, just a flicker in the sky. Then it screamed. A hunter drone slicing through the air like a blade. Logan dropped, yanked the child down, and rolled the sled behind a rock. The drone passed once, twice, then circled. Back we've been marked, Logan muttered. The queen opened her eyes, weak but aware. We must move faster, there's an outpost ahead. Underground. Logan looked at her, shocked. You can talk clearly now? She smiled faintly. I saved my strength. For this. They moved again. This time Logan strapped the sled to a salvaged hoverboard, powering it with the last charge from his weapon cell. It floated just above the sand, enough to save time. The boy kept pointing forward, guiding him past the dunes into canyons carved by wind and old war. And then, footprints. Fresh. Logan dropped to one knee. Not theirs, not local. Boots, military grade. They're already ahead of us, he whispered. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed through the canyon. You are harboring a war criminal. Surrender now and your death will be painless. Logan gritted his teeth. He activated a smoke beacon and threw it high. Boom. The canyon filled with smoke. He grabbed the sled cord, pulled hard, and vanished into a side tunnel. Inside the tunnels, the light was gone. Only Logan's visor kept them moving. The mother spoke again. Left, then down. Follow the blue stones. How do you know this place? This used to be a rescue channel, for those who refused the war. The path narrowed, then widened, into an ancient chamber. Moss grew along the walls. Rusted shields hung from hooks. At the center, a control panel buried under dust. Logan powered it on. Nothing. Then the child stepped forward. He pressed his tiny hand to the scanner. Click. The room hummed, lights flickered to life. The ground shook. A hatch opened in the floor, spiraling stairs descending into the unknown. Logan turned to the mother. You brought us here for a reason, she nodded. Below this chamber is the last seed vault, our real hope, not weapons. Knowledge, culture, truth, everything they tried to erase. Logan couldn't speak. He looked down the hatch, then up at the canyon entrance where shadows moved. They didn't have much time. He led them down. The chamber below was cold, metal, and humming with buried power. Shelves of data cores, stasis crystals, language codices. The past preserved in silence. This is what they feared, the Queen whispered. Not our ships, not our weapons, but our memory. Suddenly, above them, footsteps. They'd been followed. Logan sealed the hatch behind them and activated a defense protocol on the panel, a magnetic lock. Then he stood in the middle of the room, gripping his plasma blade. Let them come, he said. But the Queen held his arm. You've done enough. No, I haven't done everything. The child stepped forward, holding a small orb from the vault. It glowed softly in his hands. The Queen's eyes widened. That's my father's memory key. He passed it down. You've been chosen. The boy looked at Logan, then held the orb out to him. Logan took it, felt the warmth, the gravity, the weight of 1,000 voices trapped inside. The child hadn't just brought him here for help. He had brought him here to finish something. Above, explosions echoed. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Time was running out. Bloodlines and betrayals. The chamber below the canyon wasn't just ancient, it was sacred. The walls pulsed faintly, alive, with data, light symbols shifting across stone and metal like whispers from a forgotten age. Every surface held secrets, and in the center, under a protective shield of crystal, stood a circular pedestal with carvings, 3 figures with their hands raised to the stars. Logan stood there, holding the orb the child had given him. It vibrated, softly in his palm, as if recognizing him, or judging him. The alien Queen, now propped up against the wall, spoke slowly. My father created this vault, not to store power, but memory. He believed that even if we were wiped out, our truth would outlive our blood. Logan stared at her. What truth? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at her son. Then she said, Play the orb. Logan placed the orb into the pedestal slot. The chamber dimmed, and then the past returned. A hologram flared to life. A tall alien stood center, regal and fierce, with eyes like molten gold. He had the same facial lines as the Queen and the same calm fire in his voice. To whoever finds this, know that we did not fall in battle. We were betrayed. Our generals, those who wore our sigil, sold us to the war ring in exchange for territory and control. We refused to conquer. We refused to become like them. And for that, they painted us as traitors. Scenes followed. Alien citizens protesting, soldiers shooting into crowds, symbols being torn down, the capital in flames. My daughter Liana now carries the last bloodline. My grandson Kale is the last of the firstborns. Logan turned to the boy, Kale. The child had a name. The hologram ended. Silence followed. Then Logan asked the question he didn't want to ask. You were royalty? Liana nodded. But it meant nothing. Not when the knives came from inside our own court. She reached out, pulled back her cloak, and revealed a jagged scar across her ribs. This was from my own brother. Logan clenched his fists. Why? Because I refused to become queen of a butchered throne. I wanted peace. He wanted legacy. He said my compassion would destroy our name. So he tried to end me. And now, he's hunting his nephew. Logan looked at Kale, who stood silently, his eyes no longer fearful but burning with something else. Purpose. Suddenly, the chamber lights blinked red. Warning signal. They were breaching the upper hatch. Logan turned to Liana. We have to run. No, she said. We have to finish. She pressed her palm to the vault wall. A hidden compartment opened, revealing a silver sphere marked with ancient letters. What is that? Logan asked. She looked at him with steady eyes. The last message to the galaxy. Broadcast this, and every empire that helped cover the genocide of my people will be exposed. But once it's out, we become a threat to everyone, even your own kind. Logan stared at the sphere. His orders had always been simple: collect, report, survive. But now he held a choice that could rewrite history. Above them, boots hit metal. Soldiers. Time was gone. Logan grabbed the orb in Kale's hand. We're getting out of here. Liana grabbed Logan's arm. Take him. If I stay, they'll chase me. But if I die, they might think it's over. He's the future, not me. Logan's jaw clenched. No, you don't get to die for a symbol. I already did. That boy is the only reason I crawled through ash instead of giving up. Don't let his light be buried again. Before he could argue, she kissed Kale's forehead, smiled weakly, and shoved them toward the back exit, a sealed tunnel hidden by a power shield. Logan hesitated, then forced himself to turn away. He lifted. Kale gripped the orb and ran into the tunnel just as the chamber doors above exploded open. From the shadows, Liana stood, alone, but tall. When the soldiers entered, she didn't hide. She looked them in the eyes and said, "You came for a corpse, but what you created was a legend." Miles away in the darkness of a forgotten tunnel, Logan emerged with Kale into the dying light of evening. The boy didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just held Logan's hand tight, the way children do when they've seen too much and still must keep walking. And in Logan's other hand, the sphere pulsed, a signal waiting to rise. Humanity was the turning point. The stars above Virex 9 looked different now, not because they had changed, but because Logan had. He and Kale stood on the ridge, looking down at the valley of broken metal, a forgotten satellite uplink station buried in the desert, half-eaten by sandstorms and rust. No one had touched it in decades. But Logan had hope, and just enough skill. The transmission orb pulsed in his hands. Inside it, truth that could collapse empires. A genocide hidden behind propaganda, a child heir to a forgotten kingdom, and the woman who had chosen to die for her son's future, Liana. Her name echoed in his chest like thunder in a hollow cave. Logan looked down at Kale, who stared quietly at the orb. "I'm scared," Kale whispered. Logan knelt beside him. "Me too. That's how I know it's the right thing." It took hours. Logan stripped the rusted panels, rewired old circuitry, and rerouted power from his last plasma cell to spark the satellite system awake. It roared like a beast returning to life. Lights flashing, static pouring through old speakers. The uplink was ready. The orb glowed brighter. He placed it in the transmitter's core. "Ready for broadcast," his AI said. Logan hesitated. His comm still worked. Just barely. He could call for a pickup, maybe lie. Say it was a failed mission. Say he found nothing. He could still walk away. Go home. Forget. But as he looked at Kyle, small, quiet, clutching that broken star carving he had once shared, Logan anew. He wasn't just a scout anymore. He was history's witness. He pressed his hand to the console. A golden beam shot into the sky, piercing clouds, reaching satellites that hadn't spoken in years. Across channels, across sectors, across enemy borders, the message began to spread. The hologram of Liana's father lit up again. To those who still listen, to those who still feel, we are not your enemy. We were your mirror, and you shattered us. The faces of the fallen played behind him, cities, children, the uprising, the betrayal. The truth could no longer be denied. On distant planets, war councils froze mid-meeting. Screens went dark. Panic spread. In the lower levels of slum colonies, rebel voices cheered, and in ancient archives long forgotten, The crest of Liana's house lit up again. The dead were speaking. And the living had no choice but to listen. Meanwhile, back on Virex 9, the dust began to shift again. Logan turned to Kale. "They'll come for us now." Kale didn't look scared anymore. He just asked, "Will they come to kill us?" Logan smiled faintly. "Maybe." Kale looked up at him. "But we told the truth?" "Yes," Logan said. Louder than anyone else ever did. Kale reached into his pocket, pulled out the second half of the star carving, and handed it to Logan. "You keep it now," he said. Logan blinked. "Why?" "Because now you're part of my family." Hours passed. A ship landed, not from command, not from the hunters, but a neutral vessel, marked with the crest of the Galactic Archive Union. A body older than most alliances, bound not by power but preservation. A historian stepped out. Human, gray-bearded, calm eyes. "You're Logan," he said. Logan nodded. The man looked down at Kyle. "And this is the last son of Liana." Kyle didn't hide. He stepped forward, chest out, silent but proud. The historian kneeled. "Then we are honored to serve you." For the first time, Logan breathed, not just air, but relief. He hadn't saved a queen. He hadn't saved a child. He had saved a voice, and voices build worlds. Years later, they would call it the transmission of turning. A moment when truth broke through the silence. When a human, forgotten by his own command, made a choice that shook entire systems. Logan never returned to Earth. He didn't need to. He stayed with Kale, became his protector, his teacher, his sword. And when Kale rose, when his story was told in courts and on street corners and whispered in taverns across stars, they would always say he was royalty by blood. But he became legend because one human stayed.